All right. So you are posting on social media, you're doing email marketing, you're showing up where your customers are actually hanging out. You're doing all the marketing things, but it's hard to tell what's working. And if you can't tell what's working or what is getting you customers, you're pretty much flying blind. Welcome to the Big Bad Marketing Podcast. I'm Janae.
And I'm Brooke. We are marketers, coaches, and content nerds who spend way more time in Google Analytics tabs and spreadsheets than we'd like to admit. But by the end of this episode, you're going to know exactly which numbers to track and which ones to ignore so you can make smarter decisions about your marketing without feeling like you are drowning in data. Let's
Let's
do
do this.
this.
Oh, I guess we got to get more into sharing the videos of our podcast because we do the whole head bob when we say that. We have fun. We're like dancing. Let's do this.
It is fun. It's fun to say.
It is fun to say. I highly recommend our listeners try it out. Shake your head and say, let's do this. Okay, let's talk marketing analytics. We want to understand what marketing we're doing and what of the marketing that we're doing actually works. And where we start with this is trying to understand the data. The key to knowing whether your marketing is working is tracking it. It's checking it. It's having metrics in place and being able to check back on benchmarks and understand with data-driven insights if a particular channel is working well, if a particular campaign or social post or style of content is landing with your audience. Because if you don't know and you don't track the things you're doing and then review the way that they've performed, you're basically doing vibes based metrics, which, that's like an ongoing joke for us, like vibes based anything. Like, that's not necessarily the most, let's just say, data driven way to make a decision. You're kind of going on like, does this feel good? Is this like intuitively with my gut like a yeah? Which is a way to do it. It's like what we talk about in our business math episode, like vibes. But it's not necessarily going to lead you up and to the right on your metaphorical revenue chart in the way that you may find real success if you're looking at the evidence and the records of what's happening and what's actually working.
Yeah, we talk a lot about how marketing is just experimentation, and we are constantly throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. And the analytics are how we see what sticks. So the good, bad, the ugly of your marketing lies in the data. And there are two big questions that you should be looking to answer when you review analytics and metrics around your marketing. And that's what's working. And that means what's worth doubling down on. Like let's put more of our marketing resources and money behind the things that are already serving us well. And then what's not working? What do we need to stop doing? And I think that small business owners can get into this sunk cost fallacy of, but I've already poured time and money and effort into a certain thing, so I should keep going with it.
Let's keep going.
Exactly, but if it's not delivering you returns, if people aren't doing the things that you're asking them to do in your marketing, then maybe this is your signal to stop. So what we're really going to help you do today is empower you to know what data you're looking for, where to look for it, and how to understand what it's telling you.
Sure, because there really is, especially if you are not coming from a background of marketing, there really is this idea and like essence of like, well, it feels like it's working and it's not actually working. It's just like you have a hunch because it's something you're doing and or like you're just excited about it and you want it to work. But yeah, today's all about unpacking like what is actually working and how can you tell if it's actually working. So what as you're starting to think about analytics, especially if you're just totally new to marketing and figuring out what's working, what do you need to be tracking? Like, what are the metrics and numbers that we should be looking at?
And that is probably an episode in and of itself because it can be very complex. So the main thing thing that we are trying to get at with the data is being able to track something that's called attribution. So, can you properly attribute where your customers are coming from? So, let's take an example. If you have a website and you're doing email marketing and you're on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, these are your 5 marketing channels. So, how can we use data to
Oh, wait, but
tell
then someone
us?
buys something. Suddenly someone buys
Yes,
something.
yes, someone has bought a thing. And now what
Woo!
we're trying to go back and do is say, but where did they come from? And attribution is one of the hardest things to do in your marketing. So you might not get 100% of the way there. And sometimes marketing efforts are just way harder to track. For example, if you sent someone an email and they follow you on Instagram and they saw your physical business when they drove by and then they came in and bought something, you can't really 100% know which of those channels brought them in. But if someone comes in and says, oh, yeah, I read about you in the newspaper, now you know, hey, great, that newspaper ad just brought me one person. Let me, make a notch somewhere. So that's a long way around to say what you're tracking sort of depends on the platform. But ultimately, if you have a tool that can help you discern where someone is coming from, that might be your best bet. So, for example, if all of your marketing is pointing people toward a contact form on your website because all you want them to do is reach out or set up a consultation or something, can you add a drop down that asks them how they heard about you? And you've probably seen this when you have gone to business websites as well. Like, how did you hear about us? Social media, friend or family, Google. That's because companies are trying to track attribution.
So that they can double down and lean into marketing channels that are actually bringing them business. And the flip side of that is so that they can tweak, iterate, rework the marketing channels that aren't bringing them people by updating the copy on the ads or changing the times that they're posting or sending things out, or just determining, hey, Facebook is just not our channel. Nobody comes to us through Facebook or whatever it is, right? So it the attribution point, Brooke, I think is so key because it helps you understand where are my people really finding me and coming from. And it is easier said than done, but as you're starting to think about this, the idea is to hone in and really figure out the places where your customers are hanging out and then most likely to move through your funnel with.
And as a small business owner, especially if you are a solopreneur, you are likely in contact with every one of your customers. And that is awesome because you can ask them, hey, so how did you hear about us? And that enables you to get the most insight because it is 100% accurate because you heard it from the horse's mouth. And now you can actually track your attribution. And no analytics or data that you get online are going to be as powerful as hearing it directly from your customer. So if you do nothing else, when you answer the phone, say you own a roofing business and people are calling you asking for quotes for a roof, be sure that whoever is answering that phone is saying, by the way, how did you hear about us? And that
Mm-hmm.
is going to be better than anything we could talk about in this episode. Make that the number one thing that you do.
Oh, I love that. And it's such a quick and easy thing to ask or have a drop down menu of and promote people to tell you. It's great. It's so simple. And I want to say another thing, which is sort of tangential, but it touches on like you're on all these platforms. And Brooke, like you said, like they drove by your store, then they saw your Instagram page, then they got your email, then they saw a YouTube video, then they drove by again and like, and then they bought. And that is such a quintessential foundational marketing principle is the goal always in marketing is to increase the amount of touch points you have or like literally just the amount of times eyeballs see your brand. So think about huge chains. I'm thinking of like banks have commercials on TV. Like absolute terms, like pull everything aside, do they think you're watching that commercial and that you're just literally going to go to the website and register for their credit card? I don't think so. But what they do think is that they're showing up in your face when you're watching TV and it starts sort of seeping into your subconscious, if you will. Then when they send you a free trial card or like a, hey, you've been pre approved, you have an accumulation of experience with that brand. And the commercial is like a funny, silly, feel good experience. You're like, that's cute. And then when you get the thing in the mail, you're like, oh, I remember this brand. And maybe you don't like go immediately back to the commercial, but there's something floating in your aura of like, oh, this brand, yes. And they're like, it's the odds of like the what is this thing, the bias of exposure, like the more times you see it the more you like a thing, so they're just playing on that. So this is also your opportunity to embrace the idea of like reaching out in a lot of channels, and then when someone tells you, oh, actually I clicked here right now through LinkedIn, like boom, you're like, this is my conversion channel for that person.
Yeah. And I think that's where it can feel a little overwhelming as a small business owner because you're like, well, the big brands are showing up everywhere. I want to show up everywhere. And one of the things that we will tell you is your time is precious. Your investment is likely smaller than, say, a major national bank that can be everywhere at once. So pick fewer channels and use them to provide more value, make them more meaningful. So it is such a delicate balance of a lot of things, but ultimately, when you are thinking about your analytics, there are a few things that you can track on each channel that will sort of help you understand if the marketing you're doing is good, even if it's not necessarily translating to conversions. Um, so for your website,
Yeah. So Brooke, talk us through different channels and like on a high level, what should you start tracking? What are the numbers worth paying attention to?
yes. So on your website, traffic is an obvious one. How many people are actually going to your website? That's going to be a pretty good indication if other marketing channels are driving people ultimately where you want them, which is your website because you own it. Other things about your website that you'll want to look for is time on page. How much time are people spending consuming the content on your website? If people are only spending 5 seconds on your page, that means that they're hitting it and they are not seeing anything that compels them to continue. So that might indicate that there's an opportunity to increase the
Like improve the layout.
yeah, improve the layout, improve the messaging, make it more compelling to them when they first hit your page. So they're like, hey, I want to stay. I want to see what else is here.
It's reminding me of like a party. Like you walk in and if you're like the first ones there, you're like, this is awkward. There's like someone standing around like the food table. Versus if you're really like intentional and it's like flowing, there's like good points to hang out in the room and people are excited and they want to stay. Versus you walk in, you're like, this party stinks, and you bounce. You literally bounce out of the party.
Or that's the equivalent of a great website is like when a hostess greets you at the door and says, hey, I'm
Ooh.
so glad to see you. Drinks are over here. You can put your coat in the closet. And have you met so and so? And they literally warm introduce you to all of the things that they want you to do at the party. They want you to grab a drink, they want you to mingle with people. So they are like holding your hand to make those things happen. So if your website can do
Hmm.
that and make someone feel like, I'm in the right place.
This
This
is
is
my
where
kind of
I'm going
party.
next. Exactly. That's a beautiful thing. So, time on page and then bounce rate is another important one. Bounce rate is a metric that tells you how many people are leaving from a particular page. So, for example, if most people land on your homepage, which as a young website, that might be the landing point. As you grow bigger, it might be blogs, it might be service pages, it might be other pages that are sort of in the tendrils of your website as it expands. But bounce rate tells you how many people are bouncing or leaving from a particular page. So if you have a super high bounce rate on your home page, that means that people are not going deeper into your website, and that is a problem.
Okay, but let's caveat that with like, for example, for us, generally, we're not in our marketing outreach, we're not sending people to the homepage. So it's actually, it serves as like they'll typically land there from, let's say, like a blog or a service page or somewhere else on the site. And the idea is like that they'll continue using other features of the site. The homepage is more of like a, maybe I don't even want to call it a landing page, but it's like more of a formality that if then from wherever they are, they click into the homepage, then they can continue navigating. So if people are landing on your site, the page where they enter is where you want to put attention into, like, why did they leave this page or why are they jumping off of this page?
Yes, and eventually people have to leave. So if they get
Party's
from
over. Go home by
if they go
9.
from your homepage to your about page to your contact page and then they bounce, that's fine because we
That's
know that
solid.
they've done the things that you've wanted them to do. And some of the tools that we're going to talk about later, like Google Analytics, has really beautiful flow charts that show you, hey, people came in here, then they went here, then they went here, and it gives you percentages and numbers for how many people actually flowed through these different pages of your site and in what order. So, ton of data and analytics and metrics you can dive into on your website, but largely traffic, bounce rate, and time on page are three things that you'll really want to be cognizant of.
Okay, awesome. And then let's talk email. So, email marketing, like you send emails. And then the idea here is that the analytics show you kind of on the inside, what are people doing with your emails? So, what are the things we would want to pay attention to and track within emails?
Yeah. So, and we have multiple episodes now, which we can link in the show notes for emails. But largely, it's going to be your open rate. That's going to give you an indication if your subject line and your pre-header were compelling enough for somebody to actually click and open your email. Your click-through rate, did you give them something in the email that was interesting enough that they wanted to actually click on it? And then unsubscribes, which caveat on unsubscribes is that if a lot of people are unsubscribing after you send a particular email, you might need to go reference that and see if you just offended a large group of people. Otherwise, a trickle of unsubscribes here and there may just be people changing preferences and they're no longer your people. So, unless unsubscribes see as a big spike, don't worry about it too much, but keep an eye on it.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
Janae,
People
tell
leave the
us
party
about
eventually.
yeah, yeah. Tell us about social media metrics
Oh,
and what's important to track there.
is that because I'm the social media guru?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So when we think about social, I think it's such a buzzy concept and people get super excited about the vanity metrics. And I want to distinguish here between what we're calling vanity metrics are like side quests, I think, that people get real excited about and they start paying attention to and measuring without understanding the greater implications or what actually drives more people entering your funnel and getting excited about what you do versus just like hanging around and being in an unengaged audience. So a vanity
So is it
metric,
okay if I got 1,000 views on my dog video? That's like amazing, right?
that is amazing and that's awesome. Like, yes, keep doing what you're doing, but don't get stuck or hung up on being like, well, I got 1,000 views, because really we're using social in a marketing context. I mean, okay, let me back up. Big bad marketing stance is like social is a place to socialize. It's not the place that you're pushing people to buy anything. They are like almost cold people. Now they know you a little bit and maybe they're following you, and that's great. But like ultimately, we're just continuing to show up as our brand. And then when they're good and ready, then you've built trust with them. They might dip their toes in a little more and sign up for your email newsletter because they clicked your link tree, right? Like it's a real slow game social as far as turning cold random internet social accounts into people who buy from you. So follows, likes, um views, right? These are things that are, it's like it's great and it's a positive indication, yes, but you don't want to put all your eggs in the basket of let's get more people to follow us, because you can have a gajillion followers and like nobody actually does a thing and buys from you. So when we think about social engagement, social metrics that are really worth tracking, it's like understanding if we're reaching more people. I like to think about when people share your content. I think that's a great one because it's showing that whatever you said was either punchy enough or valuable enough that someone wanted to push it along to another person that they know so that they could see it too. But yeah, just blanket like follows. I don't buy that as like a useful thing unless you're being really niche and targeted with your marketing and getting people who you know are like actually an engaged audience who want to see your stuff and buy stuff from you.
Yeah. So the ultimate analytic being conversions, right? Sales.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
What's actually happening on the bottom line. And that goes for any marketing channel, right?
Yes. So in this case, I'm thinking of like someone, yeah, they follow you, they like your post, that's fine. But like, do they click through to the link where you are now getting them to give you their email address? Or did they click through to the link in your bio and then actually buy something? Which again, social really isn't a conversion place. So it's a little bit sticky on this one. But yeah, ultimately we're managing and wanting to track attribution of people who came to buy a thing from social. So, bam.
Beautiful. And if you like it when we talk about
When we
metrics and data and analytics and things, you'll probably love our Big Bad Marketing newsletter. We hit you up once a month with things that are insightful, interesting, always tactical, sometimes funny. So head on over to bigbadmarketing.com/newsletter and get in on this.
do you like it when we talk data to you?
If so, we also talk data in our newsletter. All
Okay,
right.
so
Success. How are we judging the success? Obviously, attribution is a big one, but businesses are different. So how do we approach that?
yeah, so we're saying like now you know where things are coming from, but how are we still determining if they're working? And this is where it's like, well, what are your goals? Have you set goals? Do you have key performance indicators, KPIs, like to tell you, yes, we have set a goal this month to have um man, and I'm trying to think through this in like a smart way where a smart goal where like what is it that we're in control of, right? Versus like you can't control how many people click your emails. You can't control how many people convert based on emails you've sent. But what you can control is like, have we done enough iterating on the subject lines? Are we making sure that we're personalizing emails? Different things like that. So ideally, you are setting goals that align with your business goals and what you actually want and need from a strategic standpoint. And then on top of that, you're not just lumping like best practices for my industry. What are good goals to set for emails and marketing, right? Like this is what's good for your business and in comparison to your own past performance. So setting incremental increases, right? Not just like we're going to go from 10 opens to 3,000 in 1 month. Like that's not necessarily realistic, but a 10% lift might be.
Yeah. And again, this is where experimentation and A/B testing are going to really be in your favor. And, the nice thing about these marketing efforts is the more you do, the more you learn, the better you get. So after you do 3 months of social media posts, go back and look at how they performed. Look at the vanity metrics like views and things like that, but truly because they're going to directionally guide you into what people want to see. Similarly, with your emails, A/B test your subject lines, especially if you have access to a tool that makes it easy, like an active campaign. Why not? Throw the name in the subject line, try mixing it up, ask a question in the subject line, do things that are going to be different enough that you'll know whether it's working or not, and then let that guide you going forward. So I think it's important that we talk about sort of the systems for data. And before you can analyze it, you have to have it and you have to put
Yeah.
these systems in place to capture it.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about like, okay, measure your metrics. But if this is all sort of new concepts or you're just like slightly familiar with it, you're like, okay, but how? Like, how do you want me to actually tell how many views I have or how many people clicked on a thing? So let's talk through a few. like softwares, platforms, and just like systems on the whole that help show a business owner what are the numbers.
Yeah. So probably ones that you've heard about before, Google Analytics and Google Search Console. So these two sort of work together. They are free tools provided by Google because Google just wants your data. So they're going to, give it to you for quote unquote free, but they're actually looking
You
at
are
all
the
the stuff you're
product.
doing. Yep. You are the product. Yep. If it's free, then you and your data from your business are the product. But it's fine because in my head, it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make because of the value of the data and what it tells us.
Totally.
So, Google Analytics is a tool that shows you things like website traffic, engagement, referral sources. It tells you where people are coming from. It can get pretty granular. It integrates really easily with, WordPress as a plugin. It integrates really easily with Squarespace. You just have to do a very simple, straightforward setup, which is often, like I mentioned, the plugin or just adding a particular tag in the code of your website. It's something you can do really easily. Um, Google Search Console is similar. It is just going to give you more about how your website is performing in search. So when somebody looks for marketing agencies in Charleston, how is Big Bad Marketing showing up? We would go to Google Search Console to tell us that and to see which pages are ranking for that particular query. So when you use those alongside each other, you can see a lot about the data for your website and how you're showing up in search. So, in addition to those two tools that are sort of blanket table stakes, I think everybody needs them. Your email provider, your website provider, and your social media provider, they're all going to give you analytics that are going to cover the things that Janae and I spoke about earlier. So, use the tools that you're already paying for, that you have access to.
It's
There is
all
plenty
there.
of, yeah, it's all there.
Okay, hot take question. How often should you be reviewing these metrics?
Oh, that's a great question. I believe monthly is plenty because monthly enables you to start to look at month over month trends. I think if you start to look at these on a daily basis, it's kind of like a fitness tracker that you wear when you're like, oh, yeah, I got my 10,000 steps. I feel good. Like that post got 10,000 views. I feel good. And then the next day you're like, but oh, I only had 2 hours of deep sleep. I feel tired. And you're like, well, that post only got 47 views. That's terrible. And it can sort of be too much for you to understand, and it can so influence the steps that you take next that I'm like, do it once a month, look at it month over month, look for trends over time, and do not rely on any single data point, and do not make a big sweeping change based
Mm,
off of a single data point.
yeah, I like that. I think it can be easy to slip into sort of a frantic panic when you're like, but this post only got 6 views. Like now we need to make a paid ad to compensate and get another 10,000. Like, I mean, maybe, but maybe not. Like, you don't need to make sudden rash decisions because one thing didn't go exactly as you were hoping and you checked it within 24 hours of it going up.
Exactly. Yeah. So talk to us a little bit more about like red flags when you review your data versus green lights. Like what would be things that are cause for concern and what are things that are sort of like, okay, we're probably good to leave this as it is.
Business as usual. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. I think the unsubscribes was a really solid one. Like if you suddenly see a spike in unsubscribes, like there might have been something wonky in an email you sent. Another big one here could be website issues. So if you just see a ridiculous bounce rate, and again, this is like trends over month, or even week over week, you might notice just like suddenly nobody's making it further into your website than page one where they arrived at, or they're leaving immediately. There could be an issue with your website, and the data is telling you, hey, there's a problem with this page because everyone's leaving from this page, which is like it doesn't load, or you have a massive video on there that's the load speed, it's not keeping up with the speed that the people want to see it at.
Yeah, like I think technical problems. And this just happened to us at Big Bad Marketing a couple of weeks ago. Is Janae sent a message and was like, "Hey, our keywords dropped off. Like we lost all of our keywords." She was looking in our SEO tool, SEMrush, like what's happening?
I
And
was
came to
pretending to be the
realize
the digital guru instead of the social guru.
yes, yes. And come to realize that pretty much all of our pages had been de-indexed in Google search. So we lost a ton of keywords. And we still don't know exactly how that happened, but we were able to quickly fix it. So sometimes your data, if things drop off super dramatically, whether it's traffic or keywords or something like that, that just might be something that was totally out of your control too. So check in on those types of things.
Which could also have an easy fix. You just have to
Yes.
know that there's a problem in order to fix it. So don't abandon metrics and not look at them, but have like a periodic check-in so that you are paying attention in case, the beep 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 is going off.
Yeah.
Another thing I think is important to note here is like being aware of your product or service and how it plays out over time in a seasonal way. So like, I mean, really obvious, super fun example I always lean into for seasonal is what is that store? The Halloween store that pops up, a month before
Mhm.
Halloween or 2 months before, and then they close the store and they just like super smart business model. They just like rent out a shop for 3 months. They do all their business at that time of year and then none. But if you think about this from like a digital storefront perspective, like that store in theory would only be getting traffic like the weeks leading up to Halloween, right? And then there would be a huge question mark around all the rest of the year. So it's important to consider trends over time that align with your industry, what you sell, and how people are engaging. Because if you see a sudden drop off, let's say you're in a fitness industry and you see a sudden drop off in traffic, come February, that makes sense, and pun intended, it tracks right with like December, January, people are all hyped up on getting fit and New Year's resolutions. So they all flock to all this fitness stuff. And then it slowly drops off, quickly drops off, and then it tapers. And then maybe around back to school time, it ramps back up again. People are like, I'm going to get fit for the fall, or it's like spring bikini season, right? There's different points where it's going to go up and down. So if you're expecting, midsummer or between February and spring, like for your traffic to sustain and you're looking at it thinking it's dropped so significantly and like how am I going to get it back up, like you also have to zoom out and layer into that the seasonality trends of what you do in the first place, and then you can reverse engineer and craft marketing campaigns that will help reach people even in those slow times, and also get ahead of the game when you know it's about to spike so that you're still being the getting eyeballs on your page, let's say, at the right moments.
Yeah. And strategy, planning ahead, understanding the seasonality of your business, so, so important. And as you think about these spikes, or if you see a dip and then you get into this point of desperation because you're like, oh my gosh, I had all this traffic. My business was doing good because I sell a particular thing that is reliant on bringing more people in. It can feel like I need to make a big change to try and fix it. But we are in favor of smaller incremental changes and testing one change at a time. So, for example, if your website is not converting to the point that you want, you're saying, okay, I've got plenty of traffic coming in, but I need more people to actually take the next step in what I want them to do. You can change your copy. You can change the CTA on your button. You can move things around your page, maybe give them more information further up the page. There are a lot of things you can do, and you might be tempted to do them all at once and sort of throw everything at it, but then you're not going to know what worked. So we encourage you to change one thing at a time. If you want to change the copy, the first thing, the headline that they see, amazing. Change that, but then wait a couple weeks. Then change the text on the button, wait a couple weeks. Or if you can A/B test it, that's amazing. Otherwise,
Split
one thing at
testing.
a time, incremental changes so that you know exactly what the change was that improved your overall picture.
Sure, right. And that's where also the split and A B testing comes in, is like if your systems have the functionality to run multiple different landing pages at the same time, and you can then simultaneously test which headlines are working the most and which CTA button copy is working the most, right? Like that's your golden opportunity to say, okay, you still want to change only one thing at a time, but you can test them at the same time and say, hey, page A is getting way more click throughs than page B or whatever it is, right? And then lean into what's working. Then you're like, great, now let's refine the next piece of this page, which this kind of process reminds me of this really great speech. I think we should link in the show notes too, from M. Night Shyamalan, the famous director, who's like talks about how like he's building a puzzle and you just like it's a puzzle, like it's a huge puzzle and you're just moving tiny pieces and it's slow and it comes together not all at once, but like you're building little pieces, you're connecting this section and then that section and then suddenly the sections fit together, and it's only after that like concerted effort of small incremental changes that you can get the whole thing to be completed. So yeah, I love that and how that aligns with our approach and how we think about making these kinds of changes and fixing our digital stuff.
Yeah. And be sure that anything you do, you give it enough time to work. You can't change
Mm,
something right now. Maybe on social media you can and get some pretty fast feedback about if a video is, quote unquote successful. But otherwise, make sure you give it enough time. So be
take the
sure
time.
that you ask people how they found you. That is going to be more powerful than any online tool data can give.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, people. Go
And
ahead
if
and
you,
subscribe.
yeah,
Follow our podcast so you keep getting all this good data to help build your business.
yeah. Thanks for listening.